Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of ShowMeFootball.com and ArrowheadAddict.com, and the NFL Draft is right around the corner. It is Saturday night when I am recording this. The draft starts this next Thursday, so we're less than a week away, and I almost kind of feel like that I haven't gotten out enough draft content yet. I feel like I haven't capitalized on the opportunity to make content for you guys with such an exciting time. So I'm definitely going to start just pumping out some videos here in the next few days, over the next week or so until we get to the draft. But today what I wanted to do was make a video about prospects that I specifically don't want the Chiefs to draft in the first round. There are a few guys that I know Chiefs fans really like, that they would consider taking in the first round. I've talked about a couple of them on my channel before, but wanted to make one whole video kind of explaining my stance and letting you guys know how I feel about said prospects. So I have a few do-nots for the Kansas City Chiefs today in this video. Now, I know a lot of you are probably going to go, oh, stop being an armchair GM, you don't know anything, and maybe my takes look stupid a year from now or a few years from now, and that's totally fine. This is just my opinion, so feel free to disagree with me in the comments. You guys know I'm always open to that, and I'm willing to debate with you guys and all that good stuff, respectfully, of course. But yeah, without further ado, we'll get right into it. Here are a handful of players I would not like to see the Chiefs spend a first-round pick on, considering they have 2 picks in the first round of the NFL Draft, and there's a lot they can do with them. So here we go. All right, this first one might upset some of you guys. I have talked about him on my channel before, and my stance on him of not taking him in the first round. Still think he's an intriguing prospect, but definitely not worth a first-round pick. But despite that, he's been mocked to the Chiefs a lot in the first round. And again, I know a lot of you guys like him, so that's obviously Christian Watson, the wide receiver from North Dakota State. So Christian Watson is a guy that I always thought was a fun player, even before like the combine and a lot of the pre-draft process. And I watched him a little bit, and I was like, you know, this guy would be really awesome in like the 3rd round or something like that. You know, he's a fun player. He can do a lot of things with the ball in his hands, but he's got a lot to work on. And kind of like Kadarius Toney, someone that is actually on the trade block right now. I might make a separate video about him. I feel like he's getting overhyped too much, and he's going to get totally overdrafted, and some team is going to have to pay for it, and I really don't want that team to be the Chiefs. Here's the thing with Christian Watson, guys. Number one, he didn't have elite production at NDSU, at the FCS level. And one thing that we know about players that come from the FCS is that they play lesser competition. And when you play lesser competition and you're not putting up elite numbers, that's kind of a concern to me. And I know a lot of it has to do with usage, and every situation is different. But when I watch Christian Watson's film, a lot of his production came off of plays where he was just more athletic than everyone in FCS, and he was able to get a really easy vertical route where he was dusting the corner, or he got the ball on a gadget play and he was able to take it to the house because he is a very good athlete. We saw that at the combine. He is an elite athlete. Doesn't necessarily translate into being a good player. He's very unpolished as a receiver. He's very raw at the position. And yeah, I get it. He runs fast. He's a good athlete, but that doesn't mean everything. I kind of get a Colin Saunders vibe from him. I kind of feel like he's the Colin Saunders of wide receivers. Colin Saunders had all the athletic upside coming out of Northern Illinois, and he just hasn't really done anything because he has limitations to his game, you know? I mean, he's undersized. Not that Christian Watson is undersized, but like Christian Watson, his route tree is very minimal at the moment. His release could also use a little bit of work. Now, I know those are coachable things, and I get that, but I don't really want another player on this team that is a project, needs a lot of coaching up, and is still learning the receiver position. Sounds like adding another McCole Hardman. Christian Watson is obviously bigger than McCole Hardman, and they're different players in a lot of ways, but in the sense that they're both players that will take some polishing, I would be looking more for a guy that can contribute in the short term as a rookie. I also think Christian Watson is essentially an MVS clone. The Chiefs already have MVS. Him and Christian Watson do a lot of the same things. They win in a lot of the same ways. So Christian Watson in the first round would be really underwhelming to me. If he's there in the second or third and the Chiefs haven't taken a receiver yet, like, I will understand it much more. But he's a little too rich in the first round for me. He's got a lot of potential, and he could be really good. He could. But there's also a chance that all that potential is untapped and he just doesn't pan out. And I think there are safer prospects in this draft than Christian Watson. All right, this next one, another guy I've been pretty passionate about not taking in the first round, or really at all in like the top 3 rounds, and that's defensive end from Michigan, David Ajabo. David Ajabo, if you don't already know who he is, was one of the better pass rushers in this draft, and he was probably a consensus first-round pick. Then he tore his Achilles at his pro day. Really awful situation, tearing your Achilles that close to the draft. But he was one of the top 5 edges in this draft before the injury. And now I'm not so sure he is, because even though he could come back from that injury and be really, really good, a torn Achilles is a major injury. Like, he might not even be the same player anymore after coming back from that. Like, one of the reasons I don't want to draft him is because he's not going to be there in year 1. And I know a lot of people will say, well, if he's really good and you think he could be really good coming back from injury, then you should still take him. I don't know if he's going to be really good coming back from injury. I mean, we're talking about a torn Achilles. That's different from a torn ACL. That's a lot more devastating. And you heard me say it. The reason I really don't want him is because he's not going to be a factor in year 1, and he might not even be a factor in year 2. Because, again, the Achilles, that's a long recovery. I know a lot of you are thinking it. Josh, if you still think he can be really good, you should still take him, even if it means he misses year 1, because the Chiefs' approach this offseason, or at least the one that they've come to, is that this is a long-term plan where they're going to build through the draft, and this is kind of a 3 to 4 year plan instead of a 1 to 2 year plan. I understand that, but guys, damn it, look at the Chiefs' edge position. Frank Clark, Mike Dana, Josh Kando. You cannot trot that out next year. Like, even if you think it's a soft reset year, like, you're still trying to be competitive. That is an awful pass rush. If you draft David Ajabo, he doesn't even factor into the equation next year. So you're still trotting out Frank Clark, Mike Dana, Joshua Kando. Like, that, you can't do that. Like, you need someone. And yeah, the Chiefs could double up on edge and draft someone later in the draft. But still, I mean, Frank Clark, Mike Dana, Josh Kando, and a day 2 or 3 rookie, I mean, that's not fixing the pass rush. That's not fixing the defensive line, like Veach talked about. So I'm out on Ajabo. If he's still there in like round 3 or 4, okay, because the pass rush upside was there before the injury. So if you're taking a chance there, I'm not going to complain about it, especially with the draft capital that the Chiefs have. But he can't be your pick at edge coming out of this draft. It's just unacceptable. The situation at edge is just too desperate for that to be the plan. This next one, a lot of people probably are also going to disagree with. I am not a fan whatsoever of Purdue pass rusher George Karlaftis. George Karlaftis is one of those players that has probably benefited from the Ajabo injury. He could go earlier when really Ajabo is probably the better prospect, at least before the injury. Karlaftis is seen as like a top 20 pick and one of the better edges in this draft. I'm not really that high on him, and I hope to God that the Chiefs aren't, because he's definitely someone that could still be there at pick 29 and 30. Why don't I like George Karlaftis? Well, his athleticism is pretty mediocre. He has zero bend whatsoever. Like, he cannot bend around the edge. And this Chiefs pass rush severely lacks athleticism. And bringing in George Karlaftis would not fix that, because they need guys that can bend, okay? They need guys that can speed up this pass rush and get to the quarterback in a timely manner, because Karlaftis is more of a power rusher, and being a power rusher is a valuable skill set. But I would like to see this Chiefs pass rush win a little bit more with speed, and I don't think Karlaftis is the answer for that. On top of it, he's pretty undersized. His arm length isn't great, and because of those reasons, I don't see a super high ceiling for him. I think he's high floor, but lower ceiling than a lot of other pass rushers in this draft, because when you're undersized and you're trying to win with power, I mean, that's really hard to do rep after rep after rep, especially at the NFL level. Karlaftis has been able to make up for that with technique at the college level, but I'm skeptical of what he'll be able to do at the NFL level. I would like to see somebody different than him. Alright, and this next one will probably be my last of this video. It's actually not even one specific player. It's going to be offensive tackle, because I know that a lot of people have said that right tackle is an underrated need for the Chiefs, and there's been a few times where I've seen some of the tackles in this draft, like Trevor Penning or Daniel Falale from Minnesota, be mocked to the Chiefs at the end of the round. I would be really disappointed with a tackle in the first round. I just think there's way bigger needs on this team than right tackle. I'm not saying right tackle isn't a need, but it's not enough of a need to justify spending a first-round pick on one. Even if the Chiefs are at 29 and 30 and one of the tackles is the top player on their board, the top prospect on their board, I still couldn't do it. I wouldn't do it, because you have gaping holes at cornerback. You have gaping holes at edge. You probably need two edges. You probably need two corners. You need a wide receiver. I think you need all those more than you need a right tackle. The Chiefs' offensive line is really, really good, but right tackle is probably their weakest link. But I think we have been so accustomed to seeing this great Chiefs offensive line from last year, and we acknowledge that they're great from left tackle to right guard, that we think, oh my gosh, they really need a right tackle, when in reality, I think their right tackle is fine. I think Lucas Niang and Andrew Wiley as a 1-2 punch was effective last year. They were fine. There was some growing pains, there was some rough patches, but overall, I think those two put together good stretches at right tackle. If you go into next year with that group, I think you'll be fine. There will be some challenges, but I think that's an okay group to have, and you could add a developmental rookie in the mid to late rounds to provide depth there and competition. But drafting a tackle and in the first round, a right tackle, it's too rich for me. I would not do that. Not to mention, I'm just not a huge fan of Trevor Penning and Falale in general. I think Penning holds too much, and he has a tendency to throw his defender into the quarterback, which is not great when you have Patrick Mahomes back there. I don't want him getting rolled up on. And I think Falale gets put on the ground a little bit too much for how big he is. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Those are the players that I look at, and I'm putting a do not draft label on them in the first round. That's just my opinion, though. Obviously, I would like to hear from you guys if you agree, disagree with any of the players that I said. I think we're going to get some mixed reviews on this one, so yeah, looking forward to it. But all that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this, and make sure you check out more of my work on showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com. I will see you all in the next one.